everybody to our Life and Faith and Family National Conference 2016. It's hard to believe it's 4 years ago that we were here and gathered and making these opening introductions where we've had a lot change in that 4 years. Then Auxiliary Bishop Julian Porteous is now the Archbishop of Hobart, and he's now a wanted criminal. He'll tell you more about that later. Just want everyone to know that the presentation is being videoed, being filmed for the, we want to make a DVD collection and CD collection of the whole conference, so if people can just be cognizant of that. Nick up the back is the cameraman, so don't stand up in front of him and wave your arms around. Just remember, and also anyone with little kids. We're a pro-life, pro-family organisation, and we love seeing all the little kids running around. If you could just be mindful of that recording going on, if the kids are getting a little bit restless, and take them out the side just to calm them down. Uppercut, you know, all that stuff. We don't need kids. Yeah, so thank you very much for making the trek to Albury. Thank you for all the locals here in Albury for being here and having us again. I get asked often, why do you have it in Albury? So what have you got against Albury? I like Albury, and I like the people in Albury. There's a lot of very nice people in Albury and a lot of champion pro-lifers. It's also halfway about between Sydney and Melbourne. The downside for Albury, it's closer to Melbourne. We put up with that anyway. Steve Mosher heard me speaking to Sister before Mass, thanking her for coming all the way from Adelaide. He said, all the way from Adelaide? I came all the way from Virginia. We're very grateful to have Steve and Vera Mosher here again, and they're always welcome in Australia, and we're very happy to count them as very good friends. So thank you. We're also happy to have Angela Lanfranchi. You around, Angela? She's all the way from New Jersey, but don't let that fool you. She's from the Bronx, so she's tough. I did a talk last weekend up in Brisbane with Angela. Angela was the main speaker, I was the assistant, but it was a lot of fun, and Angela is going to wow you also tomorrow with some of the information she's got, so we look forward to that. We're very grateful to have Bishop Cesar Bonavento from New Guinea. There he is up the back. We thought we lost him last night. We're glad we didn't lose a bishop. I think that counts very badly. You did 10 years in purgatory for losing a bishop. At least. And all the way from Croatia, Mr. Vicha Bartarello and his beautiful daughters, Emma and Elizabeth, are here with him. I would have thought with what's going on in this country in relation to marriage and trying to redefine marriage, that Vicho on his own would have brought thousands of people down here, and that's their bad luck. They're going to miss out, but we're going to get the goods. It's a great story. 750,000 signatures in a population of 4.2 million in 15 days. He'll tell you the story about that, but they stopped. And we've got some marvellous local speakers, Deirdre Little and Eamon Keane. I can't even see you guys, are you here? They're getting their talks ready, they are. And Wanda Skoronska, and I shouldn't have started doing this because if I've got to try and remember all of them, haven't I? So, no I won't. All of you guys are much appreciated, and all our experts in the field they're speaking on, all are very well qualified to speak on the topics they speak on. All of them are marvellous topics and very, very important topical issues for today. And it's what people need. But you know what's the most important thing? As great as the speakers are, as important as the topics are, It's the fact that you can be together and share this experience and build the camaraderie that is so critically needed in this country, around the world. So when this conference is over, I want you to ring your friends and family that aren't here and tell them what they missed. And tell them what bills they are for not being here. Okay? So I'm not going to start with a prayer because I'm going to let the Archbishop do that. So that's enough of me, I'm sure. You'll hear from all those speakers tomorrow, and I'll have plenty of time for announcements. Archbishop Julian Porteous is the patron of FLI and the Archbishop of Hobart, has often led Day of the Unborn Child processions and numerous helpers vigils. He shares our deep concerns about the life issues, believes that Christ and his teachings must be brought into the public square. The Most Reverend Bishop Porteous was named Auxiliary Bishop of Sydney by Pope John Paul II in July 2003 and was installed by Cardinal George Pell at St Mary's Cathedral on the 3rd of September 2003, choosing as his motto, Gratia et Veritas, grace and truth. Bishop Porteous was appointed Rector of the Seminary of the Good Shepherd in Sydney in January 2002, and served this role until the end of 2008. He was appointed Archbishop of Hobart in September of 2013. He's been an advocate of the new evangelisation called for by Pope John Paul II, has organised 2 colloquiums on the new evangelisation, among other things, and 2 congresses in 2009 and 10, seeing Bishop Porteous became patron of FLI's 40 Days for Life campaign in 2010 and also became patron of Family Life International the same year. And he's continued in this role, helping to make this groundbreaking campaign 40 Days for Life a success, and also to making Family Life International's mission here in Australia a success so far, and to helping us advance the pro-life cause far further than we would have been able to without his assistance. I'm very pleased to have known Archbishop Julian Porteous since his days as an administrator at Annandale. In about 1995 I first met him, and he's been a very good friend to the pro-life cause. He's been a very good friend to me and my family and to Family Life International, and I'm very pleased he's here to open our Congress and to also be here for the whole weekend. And I ask you to put your hands together and welcome Archbishop Julian.
Well, thank you very much for those words of introduction, and I'm very delighted to be with you during this Congress and to speak with you, but also I'm very pleased to come and listen. We've got some wonderful speakers. I'm really looking forward to being encouraged and inspired myself through these days ahead. I've said to a few people already tonight that one of the things that's very interesting at the present moment for me is I'm finding all my good friends say to me, I hope you end up in prison. So I keep well with friends like that. But so far I haven't been in Risdon, but we'll wait and see how things unfold. It's not I can't say too much about it publicly, but the whole issue is still unfolding in Hobart at the present moment. In opening this conference, I really think, and I'm sure for most of us, while our concerns remain focused on the pro-life movement in its various forms, particularly in the case of issues of abortion, we're also aware that things have moved very, very much further in recent times, and there is now great challenges around the question of marriage and family. So I'd like to begin the conference by some reflections on this struggle, which I think is a spiritual struggle for the family. Obviously it's related very much to the issues of pro-life, but it's now very much a presenting issue for us. I mean, who would imagine, even 4 years ago, when this conference was held here, that things that we all just understood, accepted. Didn't think there's any reason to question that we all knew what marriage was. We knew what family was. Not only because we were Catholics, but it was something which was accepted generally in Australian society, and indeed most of the great cultures of the world have always had an understanding that marriage is between a man and a woman, and it's ordained for the procreation of life, and that the love of a man and a woman for each other flows over into the nurturing love for children. We just all would have accepted that as that's the way it is. No question, no need to defend it or to explain it even. It was just something which we all presumed everybody understood and accepted. Indeed, they did, until relatively recently. Now we know that marriages haven't always been perfectly realised, what they're meant to be, and families haven't always been those places of love and security that have been able to nurture children into healthy, sound human beings. But even despite the failures, there was a common understanding of what marriage was meant to be, what the ideals were, and why marriage as a stable union between a man and woman was so important, why children are naturally linked to a marriage union, a stable marriage union between a man and a woman. These things we just all accepted, but no longer. We've entered a new phase, and this issue that's very much before us in Australia and indeed across the world at the present moment is the question of the definition of marriage. That marriage is, in fact, by its very nature, a union between a man and a woman. And now people want to change that definition, change it through the legislatures, and usher in a whole new environment of understanding about human relationships. There is this, as we know, very strong and very effective campaign that's been waged in Australia and other parts of the world to allow same-sex couples to have their relationship recognised as a marriage. What has surprised me, particularly in my experience in Tasmania, is that like all matters related to issues of life and marriage and family, they are very highly emotive issues, and people take very strong stands, very strong emotional stands in relation to these issues. I've been quite surprised in Tasmania when I, along with a number of other bishops, felt that it was appropriate because the Leader of the Opposition looked like he was going to present a motion before Parliament to have a debate on the question of changing the definition of marriage, that we felt it was the appropriate time to release a document that had been written 2 years before. The bishops had prepared this document, but decided not to release it until we felt it was an appropriate moment to do so. And so the document sat there for 2 years. It was entitled a little bit, I have to say, provocatively, because if we put down a theological understanding of the nature of marriage and family, we didn't think it would be picked up and read by anybody. So when it was put together, the bishops thought, well, let's use this, it'll create some interest. It certainly did. Let's call it Don't Mess with Marriage. And so it sat there, and then when it looked like at that stage there was going to be a public debate, we thought it was important to provide information. I certainly did, to provide information to the Catholic people about not just, I think most people knew what the Church taught, but to understand why the Church taught what it taught. And the document was quite clearly designed for that purpose, to provide some explanation, some background, some understanding, which may assist Catholic people in being able to understand the Church's teaching and the reasons for it. And so the document was ready to go, and then I, along with a number of other bishops, distributed it through all the parishes and through all the Catholic agencies in the Archdiocese of Hobart, and also, on the advice of the Director of Catholic Schools, that we sent it out in an envelope, a plain envelope, to all the families of children who are attending our Catholic schools, some 15,500 children. So it went out to 15,500 families. I knew that some people would object to it, because I knew that there was opinion around that Catholic people are far from united in support of the Church's teaching, and there had been a very, very successful media campaign and publicity awareness and very successful, really, campaign of winning minds and hearts of people towards the alternative view. But I was unprepared for the depth of vitriol that was unleashed in Tasmania and in other places as well. The emails that I received, the letters I received. I remember one very graphic one. A person just sent me a picture of the booklet in a waste paper basket. Obviously making a very clear point that's where they thought it belonged. So, and then there was also graffiti outside my house on the road, and I really was very surprised. Plus many angry letters in the newspapers in Tasmania, and the Mercury in particular, the Hobart Mercury, and a call from the head of marriage equality, the movement trying to bring about a change in definition of marriage, who happens to be a Tasmanian, Rodney Kroon, who called on people to report me to the Anti-Discrimination Commissioner for what he called peddling of prejudice. And so that's what happened, and I think you're aware then of what proceeded. What really did surprise me was the level of anger, of emotion, of vitriol at times, directed against myself, Australian bishops, and generally against the Catholic Church. So what is very clear to me has been the depth of feeling, depth of emotion that surrounds this, and accompanying that has been this strong push to say, basically, how dare you present a teaching explaining what is currently a practice in the land? How dare you defend what has been always understood in Australia, and indeed in all cultures, that marriage is between a man and a woman? This is where we've come to in such a short space of time. It's quite extraordinary, the rate of social change that has taken place. And of course there are now laws in place throughout Australia, and a particular law in Tasmania. Tasmanian law is peculiar in the sense that if somebody feels offended, insulted by something that has been said, that's sufficient grounds for a complaint to be lodged. And so it was lodged by somebody who felt insulted by the bishop's statement. So it's raised some very important questions for us, because to a certain extent we all just understood what marriage is, what the purpose of marriage is. But now we really need to, as certainly I've done, need to reflect more deeply on this question. Just what is marriage? Why is marriage as it is? And how can we explain marriage in relation to family? Because we find ourselves being forced to defend the need to retain the current legal definition of marriage. And while we would say, well, it's the teaching of the church, it's defined in the Catholic Catechism, we can make reference to the teaching of sacred scripture, but we know in public debate that that's not sufficient. We can't just use authorities that are very important and significant to us. We have to come up with arguments inspired by the teaching of the church, inspired by sacred scripture, but argument that is able to be presented to people who don't accept that authority. So we need to look more carefully at how do we define how can we explain simply that marriage is based around the complementary union of a man and a woman. Again, things that we presumed and understood and had no difficulty accepting. Now, how do we explain complementarity? I know that when I spoke about complementarity to a group of high school students, there was anger towards me. And people walked out when I started simply talking about the nature of complementarity between a man and a woman. You know, we know that it seems to us so obvious that marriage is a union between a man and a woman. It just makes perfect sense biologically. The biological evidence stares us all in the face, and yet when one is ideologically committed, things that are so obvious and clear are things that people can't see and recognise and accept. At one level we would say that surely it's a no-brainer, as they say these days, between a man and a woman. But for many, no, they cannot see what we see so obviously ourselves. So something which was so totally uncontroversial 5 years ago, 10 years ago, is now being hotly debated, not only in Australia but in many, many countries, and this is across the entire world. You hear of it in Hong Kong, we'll learn later about what happened in Zagreb, Croatia, right across the world. This is not just a Western issue, it's every nation is facing these questions. The rate of social change that we're witnessing is quite extraordinary. So we do need to devote ourselves, and I think this is one thing this conference will offer us a chance to do, to give more serious reflection on the nature of marriage and family. Because we do need to be able to articulate why we hold to the traditional understanding of the nature of marriage and family. You know, we know clearly from our Catholic teaching that marriage has a twofold purpose. In theological language, it's talked about the unity of end, which concerns the good and flourishing of the spouses, and a procreative end, which concerns the openness to new life. And one of the issues that I think is very, very evident, and I think is critical to the debate as it goes forward, does relate to the question of children and their relationship to marriage. Because marriage is about parenthood. Again, self-evident to us, but not to the society any longer, where the focus is very much upon marriage being about two people. In fact, part of the graffiti that was put outside my house was saying love wins the heart, and as you know they often use this image now, don't they, in their promotion. So in other words, focus is not on marriage in relation to parenthood, but marriage in relationship to the needs, the emotional desires of two individuals. So when we talk about the ends of marriage, I think in a way a lot of the debates as we go forward will and should appropriately focus upon the question of the relationship between the marriage union and children. That there is an integral link between marriage covenant and children. I remember, it's funny how you say things, been a priest for 41 years, I remember right from the very beginning, I used to have this little line to say to the couples. I prepared a few couples in my time for marriage, and I used to always just say, children aren't an optional extra. They're integral. I mean, it's one of the questions that will accept children lovingly from God, bring them up according to the law of Christ and His church. One of the questions that every couple is asked. In other words, to say they're not a secondary consideration, they're not an afterthought, they're not just simply a possible consequence, they're integral to the meaning of marriage. In other words, couples should not view marriage simply as being about themselves. It seems to be one of the issues at the present moment in relation to couples who have the same sex. Of course, we recognise that there will be some couples who are unable to have their own biological children, despite being open to the possibility of desiring to have children. And of course, this is a great sadness. I know many, we all do, we all know couples for whom this is the case, and it's a great sadness for them. But of course, it does offer the opportunity, the invitation to share their nuptial love by the fostering or adoption of children. From the perspective of a child, of course, it's important to recognise that social science research overwhelmingly shows that children do best when they're raised by their biological parents who are married, I'll put this in a low conflict familial relationship. Just to say that every marriage isn't perfect. But the two elements are important. Biological parents, because it's not possible for a couple of the same sex to have their own, to both be the parents of any child. It seems to be very important because the child needs to know who they are. The child needs to know the rock from which they're hewn, needs to know the history. As you know, there's tremendous interest at the present moment in people wanting to trace up their family trees. And we're talking about lunch at dinner tonight about something. It's a badge of honour in Tasmania if you can claim a convict as your forebears. I was saying that I'm a bit embarrassed because my forebears actually, on my mother's side, actually came to Hobart, so that's one of my claims. I'm really the son of Tasmania returning home finally. But I'm a bit embarrassed to say too much because he was a soldier. So he was guarding the convicts. But children need to know, we all need to know who we are. We need to know about that's only possible in understanding our forebears biologically. And of course, they need to be able to grow up in an environment, a loving, stable environment with their biological father and mother. Now, sometimes, of course, through the death of one parent or separation or divorce, that's not possible. But it doesn't alter the ideal and the reality that's what really is needed. Because a child, and psychologists can explain this in great detail, bonding between a child and mother, bonding between a child and father, how that develops over time and how each is of great importance to the child, be the child male or female. So a child needs complementary contribution of a father and a mother. We see this, we understand this, and yet there is certainly 40% of the currently the population of Australia favour and are committed to wanting to see that the definition of marriage changed. So they don't see that. The marriage equity group would claim it's 70%, it's not, it's 40%. There are 40% who are committed to social change. There are about 40% who are committed to retaining the traditional meaning of marriage, and that's that middle group of 20% that will decide the plebiscite. The great challenge for us in 2016 is to win the hearts and minds of 20% of the population, which will be enough to prevent a change in the law. So many have lost this sense, and partly it's connected with, there's a whole range of factors that have led to this, but partly it has simply to do with a regeneration. It has to do with a focus on the self. And so, along with that, the sexual union is seen as an end in itself, for me. In my search for love, for acceptance, and so on. And of course, many people don't necessarily see the need even for a formal marriage process, and so we have extraordinarily high levels of cohabitation currently in our society. Part of a generation is sadly very much focused on self. That has led to this. We all know that at the present moment, in the cultural context and the forces that are at work in contemporary Australian society, but marriage and family life is very difficult, it's very challenging. You know, parents would know this only too well. The challenge of being able to ensure that your children are able to develop sound understandings of the nature of human sexuality, the nature of being in marriage and a family. And while recognising these ideals, sadly people settle for so much less. We see a lot of young people in today, younger generation, don't see or don't view marriage as a key goal for their life. They certainly don't prize the procreation of children as a great and noble vocation that it's meant to be, because the culture so often attracts them to career and to personal advancement. So often associated with that is to have material success and the enjoyment of as many good experiences as possible in life. So these sort of forces create an environment where a lot of younger people have downgraded, if you like, or put to one side the value and importance of marriage and family in their life, and their sense of priorities and their when you look at when you ask them about their life's goals and what they want to achieve, you don't hear many of them speak about marriage. It's interesting, I gave a talk recently at a graduation at a girls' school. I spoke about the importance of marriage. Again, I was criticised for that. How dare you talk about marriage and family to young women? Very gently saying to them, don't lose sight of how important family has been for you. Understand that you have graduated from this Catholic school and graduated with all the blessings that have come from your education because of family life. And so keep that in mind as you go forward. But I got letters of complaint about saying that. I continue to be surprised, don't worry. We know there are many pressures and challenges that confront married couples these days. And sadly, many are distracted from appreciation of the centrality of marriage for human life, and it's unable to appreciate how vital it is to strive for a good, stable, enduring marriage, to have a healthy marriage, to create a happy and wholesome family life. It's no longer seen as good that it once was. However, not to seem too glum about these issues, yes, there are many shadows over marriage and family at the present moment. But it's also true, and I think it's important increasingly, that we celebrate the achievement of marriages and families that have committed themselves to these high and noble ideals. This is one of the messages that did come through the Synod. Some of the Synod fathers made comment about this, and I think it is important. So yes, while there are so many challenges, let us not lose sight of the fact that there are so many families who recognise and strive for the highest of ideals in relation to marriage and family. And these wonderful, luminous examples should be recognised and celebrated, because I think increasingly they will be striking witness to what marriage and family is really meant to be and can be in our society. Because this is God's plan. It's God's plan for human life. It's so clear when you read the book of Genesis in the light of the issues that we're facing at the present moment. So God looked at man and woman. It's very good. And he said, that's why a man leaves his father and mother, joins himself to wife. And the two become one. Wow. The two become one. Something extraordinary and wonderful happens because of complementarity. Because they were made for each other. Often, again, I've been doing this for 40 years, talking to couples. That's like two pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. They lock together. They complete each other. They make a picture together. God created us, what God intended. And that will be the environment. That deep union, two becoming one, will then be unions. And then God can say, so increase. And God says in the book of Genesis, He blessed them. That's why we have a sacrament. He blessed them and said, go forth, multiply, and fill the earth. Filling the earth all right. But that's what God's plan for marriage and family is meant to be. I'd like, if I could, just to take one simple thought on this very vast subject, and obviously we'll be touching on it in different times during the course of these coming days. But I'd like to take up an image, a description of marriage and family that has been, actually can be traced right back, even right back to St. Chrysostom, so going way back. But it's had a good deal of currency in the Second Vatican Council and been referred to a number of times since in various papal writings on marriage and family. That is a description of the family as the domestic church. I'd like to talk about that for a few moments with you this evening. So it was mentioned in Lumen Gentium, the document on the church, that if you like, family becomes the church in the home. As I said, it's got patristic backgrounds, but it's something which has gained a good deal of currency at the present moment. In other words, family somewhere is a place where God is central, where God is worshipped, so the family prays, faith is given expression. It's a place too where catechesis takes place. The first catechesis, the first presentation of faith to the children happens with the parents. So the church is alive in the family, first and foremost. And it's where family life then becomes a little church, a domestic church. Lumen Gentium, it speaks about, and indeed the Catholic Catechism takes it up, it speaks about the fact that the parents, they're described as the first heralds of the faith. It's very true, isn't it? First place the children learned about the faith from you as parents. In the Catholic Catechism, the home is seen as the first school of Christian life, where all members of the family learn more and more about love, learn about the need for repeated forgiveness, and learn about prayerful worship. That's what the Catholic Catechism says. In his apostolic exhortation, Familiaris Consortio, Pope St. John Paul II, again spoke about the importance of the family both for the vitality of the church and for the good of society, things we fully believe and understand. He says, The family, which is founded and given life by love, is a community of persons, of husband and wife, of parents and children, of relatives. He says the family's inner principle is love. The family's inner principle is love. I think that single statement needs to be reflected upon more and more. He goes on and says, without love, the family cannot live, or grow, perfect itself. Without love, indeed, man remains incomprehensible to himself. His life is senseless if love is not revealed to him. Families are places where love is experienced, shared, nourished. So that's why Pope John Paul II was called the family the school of love. School of love. And of course, when it's dysfunctional in a family life, and sadly there are many cases of increasing numbers of dysfunctional families, so too will the natural means by which we come to experience and understand love. Children who do not live in environments of love suffer for that lack in their lives. That environment in which we experience and practice love, we can never really understand it or understand ourselves as being lovable, as being loved, ultimately learning how to love. So whatever undermines the family hurts its members, and indeed then hurts the whole of society, and we're witnessing that. So a key element in the Church's understanding in this regard concerns the role of parents. As you know, the Church has always said very clearly that parents are to be the first educators of their children. Always be the primary educators of their children. It's just always understood this. So any schools or any institutions cannot replace the role of parents. It should only be augmenting the role of parents. And this is going to become a critical issue for us when we start seeing legislation introduced and required, as it is now in Alberta, for instance, in Canada, where the state is intervening and making requirements the way in which children are to be taught, say about sexuality. And so usurping that right and role of parents as being the first educators. This will be a challenge that we will be facing in the time ahead. So I think it's very important, particularly as Catholic parents, to say, yes, this is my God-given role and responsibility. This is God has entrusted these gifts of my children to me, and I'm the one primarily responsible. And God says, I give you this child because I trust that you will help that child grow to know me and grow to know love. So the Catechism of the Catholic Church says, from the beginning the Church was formed from believers and their whole households. It's a very interesting thing. There are a number of stories in the New Testament. The story I very much like is found in Acts. You remember where Peter and Paul were jailed, and then they were free. There were two occasions when they were jailed. So this is when Paul was jailed. Peter was jailed first, and he walked out, and then later on Paul was jailed. And the story went that when the jailer discovered that the chains had come off and these highly secured prisoners had gone, that he was about to take his life because he knew that if he didn't, the authorities would do it in the morning. And Paul, when he saw that, stopped him and then went and spoke to him and converted him, and he went back to the household, and we're told the whole household was converted. So the whole household became a Christian household. It wasn't just a jailer. The whole household was converted. So the idea is that families are united in a common faith, and that they then become important centres of the living of that faith. Pope Francis has made a very interesting comment, which I'll end with this evening, where he says, when he looks at what is happening generally in societies, he sees that, and we're very much focused upon the fact that there are all sorts of physical challenges being placed in regard to marriage and family at the present moment. We know that. But he's also aware there's a second level to this. That's what he says. Families are the domestic church where Jesus grows. And he grows through the love of the spouses. And he grows in the lives of the children. This is why the enemy so often attacks the family. That's why the enemy so often attacks the family. The devil does not want the family. The devil does not want the family. He tries to destroy it, to make sure there's no love there. Married couples are sinners, like all of us. But they want to go forward in faith and fruitfulness in their children and their children's faith. May the Lord bless families and strengthen them in this time of crisis when the devil is seeking to destroy them. But Francis is aware that this is a spiritual struggle, as much as it's a struggle in the legislatures and in passing on clear understandings of the nature of marriage and family. All those things are very important, but it's a spiritual struggle. And I think we need to see that. I'm sure you know that and understand that. So marriage today is under spiritual assault, and of course, if the devil is successful in destroying family life, then he will have achieved a far, far greater success, because he would have caused the breakdown of human society. So our battle for family and for family life and for marriage is an intense spiritual struggle. I think the devil thinks he's on the brink of success. But we know that marriage and family is God's wise plan for human life. And it is good. It is very good. And the marriage and family are blessed. The Lord blessed them and said, go forth and multiply. They're made holy. The sacrament of matrimony. Unbelievers' families live the sacrament, live the grace that is given. And they came before the altar and exchanged their vows. And family life can flourish and become those places that God wants them to be, places of genuine love. Love is shared, is given, it is nourished. And that will lead to the full nurturing of rich, happy human life. Amen.
Thank you, my Lord. I mean, it goes without saying we've got all our love, support and prayers and many other people. Two quick questions, if I may. Try and cheat. Are you aware, just out of curiosity, if the Holy Father is aware of this case? I'm guessing it's sort of a test case and it could become rampant across the globe, but if so, have you had a response? And secondly, when and how do you think it's best to start dealing with rogue Catholic politicians, given that this is now being done through the legislature? People who are confusing the flock, who profess to be Catholic but are teaching the exact opposite of the Catholic Church and are being quite aggressive towards the Church.
First question, I don't expect the Holy Father knows about it. He's got a few other matters to worry about, a little bishop down in Tassie. But I did communicate, when it did happen, I wrote immediately to the nuncio and informed him, and he and I had a conversation. So he may have transmitted that to Ram, I don't know. He probably would have in a report that he would give, where the Holy Father would actually read it, the story, but So I just don't know what's happened in that regard. There's probably been some notification sent around, at least here. The politicians, certainly I'm trying to look at the number of politicians at the present moment. I'm increasingly aware of the fact we just have to find those politicians, and there are those politicians who are standing firm. Unfortunately, even a lot of politicians who thought we could rely upon have changed their positions on this because the pressure is enormous. And I think we have to have some sympathy for the politicians. The pressure they're under is enormous. And when we begin the plebiscite, we're going to be in need to particularly help politicians understand, because unfortunately one side has been vocal, very well organised, very effective, constantly badgering politicians. They visit them all the time. Our resources are almost nothing compared with what they're doing. So we are at such a big disadvantage. We're not organised sufficiently. We haven't been campaigning for the length of time that the other side have. And so politicians, I know a number of politicians who I feel I can rely upon have now changed. Virtually the Labor has gone, which has just been so surprising. But the pressures are enormous. So we need, and when the plebiscite begins, we're going to have to really, all of us are going to have to work really, really hard if we're going to have a change. I think we can win. I think we can stop, change the definition of marriage in Australia. It's going to be very close. I think we can get over the line, but we're going to have to work really hard. The group I'd encourage you to keep a close eye on is Marriage Alliance. They'll be our principal agent for the case to preserve the definition of marriage.
It's a related question, Your Grace. The pamphlet Don't Mess With Marriage, which you distributed to parents via the children in Catholic schools, that's very good as far as I'm concerned. It has my endorsement. Very much. But what I wanted to suggest was that...
we don't want suggestions, we want questions. Yes.
Oh, okay. The question is there any reason why, on a parish level, this pamphlet should not be put in every letterbox so that people who aren't Catholics know what the Church is on about?
I can't see any reason why you couldn't organise to do that. I certainly think we need to find effective ways to communicate our argument, our reasoning. And I think that's a very balanced document. It's very sound, and I think that's a very good tool we could use. It's available on the website. If anybody wants to download and print off copies to wander around on a Saturday afternoon around the streets, I just refer it to free country.
Thank you, Grace. Within your talk, I recall you speaking about how a lack of love experienced by young people, or a lack of experience in the family, is possibly one of the reasons why we're experiencing what we're experiencing at the moment. How could we help to restore hope within young people in marriage and family when they haven't experienced it or experienced it amongst their family and friends?
Very sadly, so many children are deprived of the love that they really need to be able to grow, to be healthy and sound human beings. There is one ultimate source of love, and that's love of God. I think conversion to Christ is coming into a living relationship with Christ, who is the icon of the love of God, source of mercy and compassion, can bring about that healing of the human heart. But people will carry the wounds and will need that they can find love, and certainly through human relationships as well, but that deep lack, I think, can only be met, if they've missed it in those early years. I think there's only one source, which is the ultimate source of love, which is God Himself. So helping people open their hearts to God's love can be a means to bring out that inner healing of the wounds of the human heart. But you'll carry wounds. If you haven't had the level of love you really do need, you will carry that, but it can be remedied by discovering and experiencing the love of Christ.
Like others in this room, I'm been stunned to hear that anyone in a Catholic school would have complained about a talk given by an Archbishop in the school in his own jurisdiction. Can I ask, how did you respond to those complaints, and how, as members of the clergy, would you recommend that we respond to such complaints?
That's a very good question. I've been giving a good deal of thought over the last couple of months because I'm thinking about what do I do when I resume my duties for the new year with these students. I'm not sure. I'm going to talk to the principal of schools involved and discuss with them. One thought I have is that I should go into the schools and sit down and talk to the students, let them talk with me, raise their concerns and try to share with them as best I can the church's teaching. I'm thinking of doing that. I'm talking about probably 2,000 students that I know I'd have to talk to. So I'm thinking about that, giving a lot of thought. The other thing I have done in the diocese is I've organised to bring Jason Effort down to Hobart in May this year and give a presentation, but I'm thinking I probably need to go to schools myself, which will be very difficult.
Just to take on Father's question was also that is that something you recommend they do? Obviously, with the approval of their bishop, but
it's one of the things that's very clear to me from this is that, and I was aware of it when I first came, and I was trying to do some things in diocese, haven't met with some difficulties which made it hard, but I'm aware that the students have lacked a sound teaching in areas of sexuality, marriage and family, and so they're really thinking with the world. They just don't know what the church teaches, don't understand what the church teaches. So I'm trying to try and bring in some sound teaching into the schools as a longer term goal. But I certainly think as clergy, I think we just need to engage. Be ready. There'll be anger. Direct out your anger at the church. There'll be complete incredulity. They just can't understand why you believe what you believe. They just cannot see it. Cannot see it at all. But I think we do need, and of course when we go in, we need to go in, particularly I think the Holy Father inspires us, we need to go in with a merciful heart, loving heart for the students, and go in and present truth in love. We need to speak truth in love. But love must be the key motivator of our teaching. Love our students, love them, even love them in their anger, rejection.
Because working with children, I see that side, that underside, the underbelly of lots of children without families who love them and so on. But inevitably they want to know who their biological parents are, whether they're from IVF, whether they're from, and you've got 3 stepdads, whether they're from blended families. They want to know who is the bio dad and the bio mum. So I'm so happy that you put the emphasis on it. Can I ask you, please use the children's stories as the way in, because I think the enemies of the church have created a straw man of some kind of a fascist Hitler who's trying to tell people what marriage is all about. It's false. If you come through the children, as you are doing so magnificently, and tell the stories of children in gay marriages who are terribly unhappy when they're adults. They don't realise it when they're children because they're victims at the time. in transgender families. The children will, I think, elicit sympathy of the listeners, and if you tell the stories of how the children wanted to know, that might touch them. And in the year of mercy, that's what we need, to touch people's hearts. I know it's just one question and not a lot of talk.
Yes.
I wanted to congratulate you on the approach and keep going. Thank you.
Hello, my Lord, everybody here. I'm just wondering, we were all astounded when poor Ireland succumbed to the gay marriage laws. And I've got a connection, my husband's Irish, so it astounded us more than anything. But then after the vote was taken, we got the information that money was backed by a big American financial organisation to combat the, to win the gay marriage laws in Ireland. My question is, I have a question, is are we aware or any information about any such organisation financially backing the gay marriage situation here? The ploy to get gay marriage here in Australia.
Margaret, I'm going to say one thing to start off with. We don't talk about gay marriage because there's no such thing. Yeah, I know, and we've got to get out of it. I slip into it, sometimes it's easier to say. We talk about changing the definition of marriage. That's the phrase I use. But we've just got to keep doing that. I mean, it's hard because everybody else just says it. But it's an oxymoron. So we don't say that. We say a same-sex couple wanting to have their marriage, their union recognised in marriage. Mouthful, but say it that way. Or talk about changing the definition of marriage. That's a little aside. But so we'll try and fight, because we've got to fight the language wars that are going on. They've colonised so many words, and we've lost like marriage equity. We've got to fight those wars too and preserve our own language. Use correct, because otherwise we're conceding if we use their language. What was your question?
I've said it so many times myself, it's not gay marriage.
Oh, sorry, yeah, that's what I said. Sorry,
I've said so many times myself, and I use the same.
Yeah. Now the financial question is interesting. But did you know just the situation in Ireland was that, as you know, we have compulsory voting in Australia. They didn't have compulsory voting, so only 40% voted, and but 60% of the 40% favoured it. So those who were for changing the definition came out in force. And there was a very slick and very well orchestrated campaign. There was huge advertising, money, that enabled it to happen. So, but the result of the actual vote was not that majority of Irish people favoured a change in definition. We don't know that. We only know that of those who voted, 60% of those who voted in favour. We just don't know what it could have been. The plebiscite in Australia, we will have compulsory voting. That will be good. Part of the deal that we're looking at with regard to the plebiscite is to say that there's to be equal money for both sides, that the government will give money, and we'll be scrutinising any efforts for foreign money or other monies to be used, because we will get killed with regard to advertising. We wouldn't be able to match. We spent, the Marriage Alliance spent, together we did $1 million. Yeah, those little lights with the tip of the iceberg, caused so much furore, said nothing. Caused a huge furore, Fox banned them, Channel 10 banned them, all they were doing is saying, the iceberg is saying there's more to this than meets the eye. But marriage equality have so much more money behind them than we could ever muster. So we're going to have to, if the plebiscite takes place, we need to have it so there's equal money is made available, so it's a fair fight.
Lord, maybe it's putting a spanner in the wheel, but I want to ask you, what would be the possibility of the bishops organising the whole of Australia to a real prayer campaign for the plebiscite, near the time of the plebiscite. I was in Darwin for when we had the euthanasia rescinded. And we had a very strong prayer group there. Every parish was involved, and it was not expected to go through, but at the last minute it did. And I'm quite sure prayer had a lot to do with it. The bishop thought the same thing too. So, I don't know if it's possible, but the whole of Australia needs to get, or the whole, it's only New South Wales or the whole of Australia?
All of Australia.
All of Australia. Then the whole of Australia needs to get behind it. We need to get our Catholic people praying, having masses offered, and praying the rosary to defeat it. Because without it, because it's the devil behind it all, it won't succeed. No matter how much human effort we put into it, if we haven't got prayer with it, it's not going to succeed. That's what I believe.
Just a comment, at the last Bishops' meeting we did discuss plans, and we have, I won't say too much, but we have developed some plans for what we'll do, and includes prayer and a whole range of things. So we're in the process of preparing some things, which we won't say anything about until the time comes.
Thank you. Your Grace, would it be that to ascertain the feelings of the majority of the people who had made it as to how they feel about this?
No, it's very, we won't know until we have a plebiscite. That's why we need to have a plebiscite, to see where people will actually do stand on the matter. As you know, in politics too, they generally say that a lot of people are undecided even as they go to the ballot box. So we won't know that until there is an actual plebiscite to know what people think. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Archbishop Julian. Bernard Gaynor, I don't think he's here, is he? I haven't seen him. Bernard Gaynor will be speaking. I can't remember if it was Friday or Saturday actually off the top of my head, but Bernard Gaynor has had 28 complaints, so you're an inexperienced novice when it comes to the Anti-Discrimination Commissioner. 28 complaints that were dismissed, but he took it on. He told me this: nobody bothers even to take it on because of what the Archbishop just said. If the complaint is taken up by the Anti-Discrimination Commissioner, they pay the legal costs of the complainant, and the defendant has to deal with it himself. And often, they're like the little Baptist pastor, or even some odd people around the place who might say something and it gets into the public domain, and they just have to cop the fines. They lose. And so that's how they've actually managed to steer this whole agenda to where we are now, where they'll take on archbishops. When this happened, I was speaking to Archbishop Porteous and I said, I'm glad this has happened to you. As he said, all his friends were telling him that. But it will make the bishops, the Catholic bishops, more engaged, and the Catholic bishops of Australia at least have the ability to fight back in these circumstances, and many people don't. I still think there is much to be done as far as strategy and thought through these things, and I think it needs some wider scope, perhaps, on how we deal with it. I know Vince Bartarello certainly got plenty of ideas, and Stephen Mosher and I have already had a discussion about it, and I think you know my thoughts. And is there any lawyers in the room? Before I let them have it. Lawyers aren't the best tacticians and strategists. I think they're there to clean up the mess, basically. So we don't necessarily, we need to listen to their advice and where we can go with things. But, you know, at the end of the day, the truth matters. The truth matters. Jesus wasn't very popular with the lawyers and with the powers that be. And yet he proclaimed the truth. And that's all we need to do. But we need to be wise about the way we do it. And we need to be in union. We need to have some unity of purpose. We don't need to be speaking across purposes. So I've got many thoughts on the issue, and I'm sure many here will have thoughts on the issue. And I'm sure you're going to profit a lot of those thoughts through this weekend. But please, everybody, keep Archbishop Porteous and all our bishops in your prayers, because they certainly need it. When the bubble zone legislation a couple of years ago came into Tasmania, before Bishop Porteous was appointed to Hobart, just after, was it? I asked him about visiting me in jail if I went down and got arrested, and he said, of course, Paul, be a corporal work of mercy, so the boot's on the other foot. So we might really kill two birds with one stone, and we'll go and pray at the abortion clinic at the same time, right? What do you think? So he's already done plenty of that with us, and he's a champion pro-lifer and a champion Catholic bishop, and it's great to have had a patron who's gone from auxiliary bishop to archbishop, and who knows, one day it might be cardinal, and then who knows? So God bless you all for being here. Now tomorrow morning, if you haven't completed the registration, okay, please attend the registration desk. There'll be people there very early. I think David said from 7 o'clock. The first talk is at 9 o'clock. There's a Mass here in the morning at 6 a.m, which is the traditional Latin Mass. And Father Terence Norton, I think, is doing that Mass. Is that right, everybody? Glenn? There is a 7 a.m. Novus Ordo Mass.
6:30 Latin Mass.
No, we've changed it.
There's a father. He knows.
Well, you better tell him, because he knows. Phil Murphy says he knows. There is not enough time, 6:30 to 7. That won't work. They need to, yeah. So 6 a.m. We did that last time. I'm sure you can make it. It's a beautiful Mass. Father always has a beautiful Mass. And the 7 a.m. Mass, I don't know. Do we know who's that? They're going to ask you or Bishop Bonavento. Bishop Bonavento will be saying the Novus Ordo Mass, so I don't know if that's in Italian or English. Is that video or pigeon? That'll be good. Sister Yvonne's looking forward to it. She spent a lot of years in New Guinea. So that'll be also a beautiful Mass, because Bishop Bonavento is a beautiful bishop as well, so we look forward to those things. So 6 a.m. to 7 a.m, all right? On Saturday, that format changes. The early Mass, the 6 a.m. Mass, is the Novus Ordo Mass, and the 7 a.m. is the traditional Latin Mass. Okay? So 9 a.m. is the first talk. Down in the two rooms where we had dinner tonight, okay, which is the upstairs room, and that's Our Lady of Guadalupe, and the downstairs room, St. Gerard Magella. We call this room the Infant of Prague room, okay? We will have things on sale. Everybody in their welcome kit, in their pamphlets, would have got a booklet. Someone got one here. Our Lady of Guadalupe and the Conquest of Darkness. Hold it up, please. Everyone got one of those when they registered. If you haven't registered, you haven't got one yet, but so you should go get it. That is the most amazing of stories. I've read lots of books, and that's one of the best books I've ever read. Hernan Cortez and his expedition to Mexico, to find Mexico City and what went on there then, under the Aztecs, and the human sacrifice that occurred, and the homosexuality that was practiced. Abortion and homosexuality go together. Many ancient pagan cultures indulged in both those things, but no one at a level worse than the Aztecs. And when they conquered the place, for 10 years not much happened as far as conversions. And that was 1521 when they burned the city down. And they sent a bishop from Spain, but not much in the way of conversions, and those that happened were lukewarm. Until 1531. That image appeared on the tilma of Juan Diego, much to the surprise of the bishop. And that image itself is miraculous in many ways. It's not something that's in the cloth, it's something that's above the cloth. The tilma itself, that's been preserved for 500 years, is amazing. Much about it. That apparition of Our Lady of Guadalupe, who's pregnant with the black belt around her waist, that's an indication she's pregnant. And the next 10 years, something like 50 million fervent conversions that brought South America basically to Christendom, which is what Hernan Cortes said on the beach when he first landed. I claim this land for Christ. So we have to be the foot soldiers. Okay, we do the groundwork. God does the converting. We have to be faithful, and He is always faithful. We can't forget that. That's why that book is in your conference book, welcome kits. And there'll be more on sale for $15. It's a bargain, right? Steve knows when I went to America April, May, that was one of my missions, to get Christendom Press to get me some of those books because it was out of publication, so they did a reprint. And take it and spread it around. It's a marvellous story, and I think it's very relevant to the pro-life cause and the overwhelming terrible evils that we confront daily in our lives today in society. And we certainly stand on the precipice, and if we're not faithful, we'll fall. So you're here because you're faithful and you want to be engaged in the fight. We want to help you, and we need your help. God bless you, everybody, and we'll see you in the morning. Thank you.